It gives me so much joy. It gives me so much joy. But the whole day was amazing to me. It wasn't just Daniel's visit, but also Reverend Dr. Jerry Troyer showed up. And what I didn't tell you, and well, I didn't tell anybody, I was in my office before the service, and I was thinking, I wonder how Jerry's doing. And about a minute later, my husband walks in and says, Jerry's here. It was the coolest thing. I came in and he was just here bright and shiny, drove in from San Diego, which was awesome. And I will never get tired of seeing that man. He's a beautiful, beautiful soul. And I adore him. But we also saw a whole lot of other faces on Sunday, and that was really neat. And then I never thought that this would go into my good day story, but it did. There was a board meeting. There was a board meeting, and board meetings are usually really boring, right? They're boring meetings. And it wasn't what the board meeting showed me. This was my takeaway. I don't know about the rest of you. What it showed me is that our vision is happening. The vision that we've been holding is unfolding, and that's really incredible. So yeah, it made it in my positive list, go figure. And after that, Mike and I went to the Selah Gospel Choir concert in La Cañada, and it was awesome, and it was high energy, and the next time they have a concert, I will let you all know. You don't want to miss it. It was super cool. And Joey Ramone over there, and Mariana, our soprano saxophone siren, and Eddie, our tenor, they're all members of the choir. Eddie kind of corralled those two and said, you're coming with me. And they did. And we're so glad. I will tell you that for sure. Now, at the concert, it was really, really crowded. And we were sitting next to this lady whose name was Cynthia, I came to learn. We were chatting during the intermission. And this lady, we had to talk to her because I don't know how, but she knew every song. And I can explain to you later why that's kind of astounding, but she was singing along with everything. And it wasn't, does she usually sing with the group? No, I didn't think so. So I will explain why later after the service if you want to know. But she was singing along. So Mike said, you know all the songs, why aren't you there? And I leaned in and said, yeah, because sometimes I don't have all the words. And what I said to her was, we need to get one of him in our church. And I was referring to their choir director, who is David Saul Lee. And Cynthia's answer was, there are plenty of hymns all over the place. You got to visit other churches. And I said, well, there are a couple of potential problems with that. I kind of have to be in my own church on Sunday. And second, we need the budget to pay one of them when we find one. And without missing a beat, she said, well, we'll find you churches with services at different times so you can go. What time is yours? And there are a lot of hymns who will do it for free if they love what they're doing and what they're doing it for. She just pulled that answer out of thin air. Wise, wise woman, and I am so looking forward to going to these church services and meeting all the hymns that were out there and bringing one home. But wait, there is more to my Sunday last week. After we went to the Selah concert, Mike and I had not eaten since church. So we were more than a little hungry. And so we went to this fairly new barbecue place in Glendora called Barbecue Station. If you haven't been and you like barbecue, go. They're on Route 66. But we ate. And it was good. It was so good. And we got in the car to go home, and I was absolutely on fire. I was like, this was the best day ever. You remember doing that when you were a kid, right? This is the best day ever. It felt like that. And I was so full after the day that I actually made a point of going on Facebook and posting about it, just posting my gratitude. We have are there planes landing? What's happening here? That's what that was about. Okay. So I posted on social media, and you guys, you may not know this because Clark and Mike and Eddie post all kinds of stuff about the church all the time, but I don't. I really don't. I try to avoid going down that Facebook hole because, you know, you get in there and you start reading and then you keep reading and then it's bedtime all of a sudden. So I actually posted my gratitude for the day, and it got me thinking, was it really any better than any other day, or was I just paying more attention last Sunday? Now I will tell you, Saturday night I fell asleep about 1 and I woke up before 4. So yeah, I to say I would have been easily impressed, I would have been easily impressed. However, I think what happened was so incredible that even if I'd had, 10, 12 hours of sleep, I would have been equally grateful. So what if we all chose to see every day as perfect? Do you think that our attitudes and our experiences would shift into more greatness, more abundance, more joy? If we expressed gratitude for everything that happened every day, and I'm not just talking about pointing out all the good stuff and expressing gratitude for that, right? I am talking about being grateful for everything that happens, beginning with whatever dream you were having before you opened up your eyes in the morning, and ending with an expression of thanks before bed. Thanks even for the traffic and the lines and the news. Or you could, and I have tried to give up saying this, so I'm only going to say it once. I'm just going to say it this one time. You could turn off the news. Right? You could turn it off. You could turn off the news and not pay attention, and you could discover all kinds of wonderful stuff to fill that former news time with. But let's start choosing to look at everything as amazing. It shouldn't be hard to make that shift, right? Because last week, after our talk last week, it should be clear that there is a divine hand guiding all that is, right? I was able to offer proof in a way that I've never been able to before. I always knew based on my experiences, and I could trace things back, but I was able to hold up evidence that there's something behind it all, because if anything had shifted, things wouldn't have come out the way they did. If you missed it, go back and listen. It's on our social media. Which ones is it on? It's on YouTube? It's YouTube and Facebook too? Yeah, so you can see it there. So my thought is this: if there is a divine hand and a divine mind and a divine presence behind everything, one which we can see evidence of, if we choose to observe it, then the traffic and the lines and the cranky people, they all have some kind of purpose in our experience. And we all have some kind of divine purpose in theirs. We're all here as part of the universe's unfoldment of our greatest good. So I wonder what would happen in our lives if we started seeing even the cranky folks as a gift, and we gave thanks for them. I know, it's tough. The front row's going, I invite you to join me in something. Last night, I set an alarm on my phone to remind me every night before I go to sleep to post my gratitude. Just a sentence or two. It sounds like a pretty easy assignment, right? I invite you to join in that and see what unfolds for you. In one of the books that I bought about these talks on anger that we've been in, this is called Anger is a Choice by Tim Lahaye and Bob Phillips. You may remember the name Tim Lahaye from his very popular book in the 80s, 90s called Left Behind. Yeah? Anybody remember that? Left Behind? It was a rapture book. And I will never forget, this is a total tangent. I was pregnant with our youngest son, and I went to my obstetrician appointment and came home afterwards, as one does. And the phone rings, and I hear this woman laughing. And she says, "Is this Gina?" I said, "Yes." She said, "You left your book here. You left behind. And she was cracking up for like a good 5 minutes. It was really, really funny. And that is why I remembered his name. Anyway, he also wrote this book, Anger is a Choice. And on page 75, it showed the Cranky Code. And they say that this code is the basis for a lot of the anger that we see around us. It really appears to sum up what it seems like folks might be thinking when they're out in the world acting all icky, and why so many people seem to feel fed up all the time. Okay, and here's the list of those thoughts and beliefs in the Cranky Code. As you listen, try and think of a time that you've acted from a similar place, or you've observed someone who appeared to have been coming from that place. And let me just note, it's so much easier to identify other people who are doing the thing, right? So really, kind of aim it at you. See if you've ever done these things. Okay, so the first one is, I am entitled to what I want when I want it. Next one, my time is important and I should not have to be inconvenienced by others. That sounds like a whole lot of missed interpersonal opportunities to me. The next one, I have a right to be impatient or rude when people are behaving stupidly. Anybody feeling that one a little bit? Yeah. How about, I am entitled to special privileges because I am who I am? Right? My dad goes, it may look like a lot of people are coming from that particular place of self-importance, but I don't think people are really thinking that way. And we'll go into my thoughts about that on another day. But I really don't think most people are like, I am important. They may prioritize themselves, but I don't think that's an undercurrent. I could be wrong. That's just my thought. How about this one? I am a taxpayer. I own part of this road. I have the right to drive any way I want. Yeah. How about, I not only have the right to pursue happiness, I deserve to be happy, and I'll do whatever it takes to achieve that. I was kind of surprised that this made a cranky list, because I don't see anything really wrong with that. We all deserve to be and should be happy. We just need to get out of our own limited perspective and realize the happiness in each moment. The only time that this one goes wrong is when you pursue your happiness at the expense of others, right? You need to expand into your joy, not take it from around you. It's not real that way. So next, there's, I'm entitled to cheat a little bit in order to get ahead. What did I just say, like a minute ago about the last one? No. It says, if I don't take advantage, someone else will, and then they'll be a step ahead of me. How about, I work extra hard, but I don't get paid for it. So I am justified in helping myself to a few souvenirs from my office to offset what I'm rightfully owed. That one was oddly specific, right? Like, how did that make this list? It's 15, the top 15 modus behind crankiness, and it landed at 8. How? That one blows my mind. Okay, but this next one, I've actually seen this one around a lot myself. I'm too busy to mince around with false politeness. I should be able to tell people exactly what I think without having to worry about their feelings. My answer to this, why do you feel entitled to assault people with your unsolicited judgment? Right? Keep it to yourself. Why should you get a say in the way other people do their thing in life? It's their life. Let them live it and express it in whatever way they want. As long as they're not hurting anybody, right? You do yours. I think if we stop keeping track of and making judgments about the lives of others and start focusing on our own, our individual experiences will become infinitely more wonderful. And I believe that the popular phrase to really make that make sense is you do you, boo, right? You do you. Don't do everybody else, okay? This next one, I have to be more in the know than everyone else so I can stay one up on them. Otherwise, they may take advantage of me. And this one, that's an interesting twist on the last one, right? Like, I have to stay ahead or they're going to get me. And the other one is I don't care if they don't like that I got them. Okay? How about this one? And this is big in Western society. I deserve the newest, the biggest, and the best, and the most. It's my right. Right? That is Western society largely. But you also deserve food and a roof over your head and utilities. So be careful if this one seems familiar, okay? And then here's a cynical take on that one. I'm going to die one day, so I may as well get as much as I can right now. Okie dokie, Pollyanna. Cool. All right, how about this one? I think we've all seen this one demonstrated. So what if I'm being rude? I never have to see this person again, so what difference does it make? To the person they're never seeing again, it may mean all the difference in the world. A singular moment can change the trajectory of a life, and that's something we would all do well to remember and to take seriously. If a moment can change the trajectory of a life, then isn't it up to us to put out into the world as many moments of joy and wonder and magic as we can? To realign people's lives with a path of loving kindness. Shouldn't that be our goal? I think so. Well, here's another one that I think we can all pretty easily draw parallels in life with, and that is, my opinions and views are more valid than anyone else's. And you've already heard my perspective on getting our opinions all over everything and making messes everywhere with them, okay? And then there's another variation of that one. My emergencies take precedence over anyone else's emergencies. And I will say this list was clearly compiled well before recent events, because what I'm seeing is everybody's taking emergencies very seriously and we are all working together. And I think that's awesome. I'm not seeing anybody saying my problem is bigger. And I love that we've come together this way. Finally, this last one is the world is unfair and opportunities are limited. So I might as well get all I can while I can. Here's the difference maker in this statement. Regardless of who or what stands in my way. Yeah. And that list is followed by this from page 76. They said, displays of anger are often cries for attention made by the individuals who are angry. Their anger is a perverted form of reaching out for contact. This reaching out may be over minor offenses, large annoyances, or very unsettling events. This method of contact is most often destructive. And to that last sentence, I will say, I'm going to add this in the wise words of, anybody heard of Billie Eilish? Yeah. Right? In the wise words of Billie Eilish, duh, right? Yes, it's destructive. If you're being all nasty in the world, you're definitely not making friends or building bonds. It's destructive, and it's also based in fear. Who here, who's been here for a while, who found yourselves thinking about dragons when I read that list? Anybody? Yeah, brought up some. If you don't know what I'm talking about, check out our talks from a couple months ago, 3 months ago, about fear. We used Jose Stevens' Transforming Your Dragons book as kind of a platform. But we really kind of pulled apart fear and how the different ways that it manifests and limits our life. But in the end, that is what is behind most, if not all, displays of anger. On some level, it's fear. It's an unmet need or a fear that a need will not be met. And I've mentioned this person several times before for this reason, but my dear friend and our brilliant bass singer who can bring the subsonic sounds in, David Lacey, he brings me these incredible short stories and cartoons. And last week, he handed me a cartoon with the Cherokee story of the two wolves. Right? And I knew immediately I was going to use that. I was going to take pictures of each frame and I was going to put it in the presentation over here on the screen so that you could see it while I talked. And so I put it in a very safe place where I knew it would be when I needed it, in the bookstore. And I do not write my sermons there. That was not where I was when I needed it. So no, you don't get to see the cartoon. But you do get to hear the story, and it's one that most of you are probably familiar with at least part of. And the story goes, an old Cherokee is teaching his grandson about life. A fight is going on inside of me, he said to the boy. It's a terrible fight, and it is between two wolves. One is evil. He is anger, envy, sorrow, regret, greed, arrogance, self-pity, guilt, resentment, inferiority, lies, false pride, superiority, and ego. He continued, the other is good. He is joy, peace, love, hope, serenity, humility, kindness, benevolence, empathy, generosity, truth, compassion, and faith. The same fight is going on inside of you. And inside every other person too. And the grandson thought about it for a minute and then asked his grandfather, which wolf will win? What's the answer? The one you feed. But do you want the rest of the story? There's a lot more to the real story. When the grandson asked, which wolf will win, the old Cherokee simply replied, if you feed them right, they both win. You see, if I only choose to feed the white wolf, the dark one will be hiding around every corner, waiting for me to become distracted or weak and jump to get the attention that he craves. He will always be angry and always fighting the light wolf. But if I acknowledge him, he is happy, and the white wolf is happy, and we all win. For the dark wolf has many qualities: tenacity, courage, fearlessness, strong will, and great strategic thinking that I have need of at times, and that the light wolf lacks. But the light wolf has compassion, caring, strength, and the ability to recognize what is in the best interest of all. So you see, son, the light wolf needs the dark wolf at his side. To feed one would only starve the other, and then they will become uncontrollable. To feed and care for both means they will serve you well and do nothing that is not part of something greater, something good, something of life. Feed them both so there will be no more internal struggle for your attention, and then there is no battle inside of you. You can listen to the voices of deeper knowing that will guide you in choosing what is right in every circumstance. Peace, my son, he said, is the Cherokee mission in life. A man or woman who has peace has everything. How you choose to interact with the different forces within you will determine your life. Starve one or the other, or guide them both. Your impulse to anger is an alert. It is meant to get your attention, to indulge that impulse and simply act out of that anger, to give that dark wolf all of the food it wants, starves the light. To ignore it altogether, that angry impulse, may feel like you're feeding that light wolf, but really you're starving both. Okay, take that impulse of anger as an alarm. Screaming, right? Not unlike my printer last week. Screaming at you to pay attention, but I can speak from experience when I say that simply indulging that impulse and getting your holler out, some people call it venting, I call it getting your holler out, doing that without actually pausing to look at the reason for that impulse is a disservice to both of those wolves, each of whom has half of the potential for peace within them. Let me explain what I mean, okay? Now I'm going to lightly touch on this for those of you who weren't with us last week. So I let everybody know that although I don't often get angry about people or life in general, every now and then something, right, some object or situation around an object will get under my skin. And last week, that thing was my printer. My printer ran out of magenta toner and it started screaming at me really loudly, and far more loudly than any printer has a right to be screaming, is what I'm saying. And I jumped through all kinds of hoops to try and solve the problem, including trying to reason with it really loudly, and I didn't solve the problem, and it didn't stop screaming at me for trying to print a black and white document, which didn't even need magenta toner, because it ran out of magenta, right? So my inner lawyer, I think that we all have one, if we just pay attention, my inner lawyer wanted to holler, objection, relevance, because that was irrelevant to what I was trying to do, wasn't it? But all of that story, all of that noise that me and that inanimate object were making, it wasn't about anger. That angry impulse. Remember how I said that I learned as I write these things? Well, here it is. I discovered as I was writing this that my loud and irritated and angryish impulse wasn't actually anger at all. That anger was my emotional mind's way of getting my attention so I could figure out what was actually happening. And what was actually happening was fear. Yes, I will say that the screaming alarm that my printer made went a long way toward making me believe I was angry. It absolutely did. But I can't say that hearing that sound again will not spark similar feelings of technology trauma. But what I was actually feeling in that moment was fear. Because I was trying to print out the inserts that I put in last week's program, and the announcements, and my sermon, and my printer said no to all three. And so the little me in my brain that I call the ego, that ego said there are way too many unknown variables and I can't control any of this. I can't control what's going to happen tomorrow. Will I have time to get into my office and email all of those pages to the computer in there so that I can print them? Because my computer does not communicate with that printer. Printer issues, right? That's all I'm saying. But will that printer be up and running? Because sometimes it is not. Will there be paper? Right? This is what my ego is screaming, saying it's time to panic, woman. Why are you just standing there yelling at this machine? The world is falling apart. Mayday, mayday, do something. That is what the voice inside of me was saying. That angry impulse was an alarm bell letting me know that I was about to hand everything over to ego. Right? Rather than pausing in the moment to figure out what really set the alarm off, I snatched up the ego's bait and I tried unsuccessfully to solve the thing that my ego told me was responsible by attempting to fix the printer. Let that dark wolf sound the alarm, okay? Then gather the light wolf to you and ask for clarity. Let that dark wolf make you aware of imbalance, uncertainty, vulnerability, any other state which awakens the ego's response. But when the awareness of that perceived vulnerability has come, bring that light wolf in to guide you to see clearly through eyes of love. I've been saying for the last 4 weeks that according to A Course in Miracles, the only things that are actually real in this human experience are love and fear. Anything which is not love is fear. And I've shared a great many snippets from A Course in Miracles lately, but this one hits the nail squarely on the head today. This is the last sentence in the section of chapter 15 called The Time of Rebirth. In you are both the question and the answer, the demand for sacrifice and the peace of God. The dark wolf is always the question, but the light wolf is always the answer. I want to close today with a prayer exercise to help us awaken and call near that light wolf for a situation which we're at odds with right now. Someone that we're holding anger or resentment or any other dark wolf feeling for. Okay? Call that to mind for a moment. This is a prayer from Illuminata by Marianne Williamson on page 132. So if you feel comfortable now, I invite you to close your eyes and allow this prayer to become your own in whatever situation comes to mind. Okay? Dear God, there is someone whom I very much dislike. It is, you may think that person or those people's names now. My anger or unforgiveness is because, let yourself express those reasons within for a moment. My anger or unforgiveness is because I know that my ability to forgive this person is where my freedom lies, for my hatred and judgment are attacks upon myself. This hatred keeps me tied, dear Lord, to the guilt within my mind, and I am willing to be free. Dear God, please help me. I surrender to you my thoughts of this person's guilt. I allow myself to fully feel my pain, my sense of violation. My fear is that this person will hurt me again, directly or indirectly. I take those feelings and place them in your hands. May your love be like a bonfire in which my feelings can transform. I know my attack thoughts are hurting me, and yet I feel I cannot let them go. And so I say to you, dear Lord, I am willing to see this person's innocence. I am willing to see the pain in them that would make them do these things. I am willing to have my perceptions healed, that I might rise above, that I might hurt no longer, that I might be released from this wheel of suffering. For I know if I could drop this, I would be set free. I cannot do this for myself, dear Lord. In spite of my pain, in spite of my resistance, I pray for this person. I ask that this person be healed and given new life. I ask for a cease from my own pain. For truly we are reborn or we die together. I know this. I am willing to have a miracle. I am willing to forgive. I need your strength to do so. Thank you, Lord, for making me bigger, for bringing me closer to the divine power in my own heart. I surrender this person to you. I surrender my pain to you. Heal them. Heal me. Thank you. Amen.